And I came here from Grand Rapids, Michigan, because this is much the same issue. They are repeated. We've had so many people tell us so many important things today, and that's just exactly why I'm here. I did find out on a recent map of the 50-mile evacuation that Grand Rapids is not included in that. Some of our major suburban towns are. So I guess I'm about 5 miles outside the evacuation zone of 50 miles. And so I can kind of relax in case it happens tonight that my family's not going to be in trouble. I am concerned though with the nuclear industry custom of twisting the words. They use the term spent fuel. Spent is not spent. Most of us think of the word spent in a common fashion, meaning it is no longer any useful, any good. And yet that's not exactly what this means at all. It means just the opposite. Spent fuel is so highly irradiated that it cannot be used any further to, in a nuclear fashion. So what happens to it? It sits around for quite a while. For instance, we've had a lot of talk about the long time, and that tritium is a rather, in fact, we know that tritium is being released by every nuclear plant in this country. And we're always being told, oh, but it hasn't gone off-site.
It's in the water.
Yeah. And what kind of a half-life does it have? 12 and a quarter years. That's the half-life. In order to figure a full life from a half-life, you have to multiply it by at least 10, which would be 120 years. Okay? But we've got other ones too. For instance, radium has a half-life of 1,600 years. But you have to multiply, put another 0 on that one, and you've got 16,000 years. And that's radium. But the one that's the real topper that I know of, that, this list was made out from some, the technology, safety, and costs of decommissioning a reference low-level nuclear plant. But it does say uranium, which is, let's see, uranium-235 is 710 million years, and uranium-238 is 4.5 billion years. Now I know even my sweet little granddaughter isn't going to be around that long. So it's something that we all have to be considering all the time. How the supposed greatest minds of our nation and the world ever got into this kind of a mess, I have trouble believing it. So do most of the people I know.
And
Does anybody
ask you to finish up for us.
All right. Radioactivity, fracking, water, it's in gasoline. Anything from below 2,000 feet is in gasoline, is radioactive. Has anybody checked the Philippine floods to see what the radioactivity that those people are facing as a result of Fukushima? Well, in any case, what can we do? We can talk here. We can write to our congresspeople, who seem to be the ones that are supposed to make the laws by which the agencies are invented. And we can write them over and over and over and over again and demand answers, real answers.
Thank you.
Richard McGraney, I'm just an ordinary citizen, and I heard about this yesterday. My comments go back to 3rd grade. I'm at Horace Mann School here in Ohio, Toledo, and I remember pulling out an encyclopedia and finding a statement on atomic power. Wow, this is pretty cool. I've heard of atomic bombs. Okay, reactors, a statement in I think it was the World Book, said nuclear power will be so cheap that we will not use the fuels like coal and oil to generate electricity anymore. This is a kid's encyclopedia. I don't know what it was. And I'm thinking, well, that didn't work out. The nuclear fuel cycle we are stuck with, flat out, is aimed at weapons.
Thank you.
That's all it's aimed at. We are using it because it was convenient to develop it for that use, in addition to getting weapon-grade materials out of it. Depleted uranium is not a big deal unless you are an airman loading the rounds into the 30-millimeter cannon that fires it. Think about that. I wonder what the outcome has been for those soldiers. Oh well, I'm sure they're doing as good as they can do. The bad choices have resulted in waste products that are just too devilish to discuss any further. What are other advanced countries doing? The most advanced country, other than the United States, Germany, has quit. Good for them. The weapons-grade fuel cycle is still going to get distributed. We've heard that in the news. Iraq is still going to be able to develop nuclear power. Oh well, maybe it's the easiest thing to do. Higher tech fuel cycles are out there. The waste products are the problem. What are we going to do? We can go back to day one, quit doing anything else, start the new fuel cycle, and maybe also lobby our government for representation of citizens in the government. Wouldn't that be an ironic thing? It's a possibility. I would like to leave you tonight with a book titled, Justice by Lottery. Find that book, look it over. A lady from England wrote it. It's years old. It has some interesting societal issues in it that are discussed, and a lottery might be a really good idea for our representatives.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Comment? Remember that great American story, The Wizard of Oz? Remember when we said that big, scary, fiery talking head scared me? Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. The great Oz has spoken. Think yourself lucky I'm giving you audience tomorrow instead of 20 years from now. The great Oz has spoken. To that, Dorothy says, if you were really great and powerful, you keep your promises in the end, Oz. In the end, Oz finds alternative solutions to his promises and admits his scary energy, scary tactics, were wrong. Be great and powerful. Come out from behind the curtain and reveal the scary reality of what to do with nuclear waste. Remember the tornado that started the whole Wizard of Oz story? One major tornado hit, a simple tornado hit, to a nuclear reactor could cause a major disaster. And like disasters at Chernobyl and Fukushima, what will we do with the waste then? Throw it somewhere over the rainbow? And again, famous words from the Wizard of Oz to the NRC. Use your brain, find a heart, love your home, and use your courage to abolish nuclear power forever.
I'm Paul Lamberger from Dayton, Ohio. I have degrees in chemistry, chemical engineering. Some people are saying they can't hear me. Need this thing. So should I start off? Did that
No, that's
get
good.
recorded? Okay. Registered professional nuclear engineer, and I've been dealing with radioactivity my whole professional life, starting in 1959. I think the first thing to say to the NRC to this topic, with the word confidence that you have used, and I think you maybe were forced to use it by the courts, but anyhow, my confidence in the NRC has significantly decreased since it has become a political, not a technical organization. And by political, the example that I give is the previous chairman, who's no longer there, thank you, is a political appointment with the idea by a president and by the consent of Harry Reid from Nevada that they didn't want Yucca Mountain. And so there's nothing wrong with Yucca Mountain from a technical point of view. It's only a political point of view that thing is stopped. And hopefully it'll get restarted when the politics changes. The NRC should go back to their idea of citizens first and not the politicians first. Another thing that makes me lose confidence in the NRC is the lack of performance or reaction of Davis-Besse and the significant corrosion of that reactor. Some lazy NRC guy dry labbed the results of his inspection. He didn't want to go out in the contaminated area. He didn't want to go out in the high radiation area and see for himself. And he took the words, the report of a person who had a vested interest, namely the operator, and said, all is well. He should have had his head chopped off for that, but he didn't. And his supervisor should have had the same thing. So there's my problem with confidence. I am a pro-nuclear power person. It does not release CO2. It does not result in radioactivity being emitted into the atmosphere like coal burning. It does not result in mountaintop removal. And I think it is a very good idea, and it can be done safely, has been done safely. Waste disposal, Yucca Mountain is the solution to that problem. There's nothing wrong with that. And I hate to see NRC blowing the future of nuclear power.
Okay, thank you.
My minute, is that my minute warning, or is that my 3 minute?
No, I gave you one more.
I'm sorry.
Why don't you just make a last statement?
Okay, one last statement. The time periods that are assumed that there will be institutional controls is quite a stretch to being ridiculous. Remember, the lifetimes of the pyramids and the Roman Empire is not very long. Underground storage is the only thing that will come anywhere near close to indefinite containment. And when you lose institutional controls, you lose the ability to demand action, to recast things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
My name is Neoclis Leontis. I'm also a concerned citizen. I'm from Bowling Green, Ohio. Given the lateness of the hour, I don't want to repeat anything that's been said by anyone else. I just want to address the elephant in the room. And the issue is that everyone should be asking, and I don't have an answer to this question, but it's a question we should all be asking. is this agency really an independent agency? Is there anything that citizens could say here that will be taken seriously if it contradicts or runs against the interests of the industry that it is supposedly regulating? That is a question that we need to be talking about and not trying to convince people who cannot institutionally be convinced of things, no matter how much scientific, historical, sociological, etc. evidence we marshal. Now, this agency is not unusual because almost all of our agencies in Washington, D.C. are now essentially captive agencies. This is the question we should all be putting our efforts to. And then all these disparate issues are consuming us. We don't know what to work on first. Should it be the food stamps, the fact that people are hungry? Should it be global warming? Should it be the nuclear? What do we work on first? Well, you know, it might be that if we could get at the root issue, if we could elect people that address the root issue and get at this root issue, we might be able to start solving all of these problems. Because fundamentally, we no longer have control of our government. It is governed by corporations, corporatocracies, by special interests. And guess what? The people in those special interests, they may be able to control their little agency, but they're just as at the mercy of what other agencies are doing. They have to eat the same food that we all have to eat. You know, they may be getting special treatment from their little agencies, but they're subject to the same problems the rest of us are. So in fact, this could be good for everybody. And I want to leave you all with this idea, all this energy in this room. Can we get together in the next 6 months in Michigan, in Ohio, and start thinking about a constitutional amendment to turn back Citizens United?
Good evening. Name's Mark Stansberry from Columbus, Ohio. Came up with a group of folks from Columbus, long-time concern on nuclear industry issues. What these series of hearings indicate to me is that the NRC has finally come our way, that confidence is an importance in this process. Confidence of the general public to make policy work, okay? So in policy, this rule that we're looking at, the rule changes, are about making it more efficient to relicense operating nuclear reactors and plants, okay? So in all policy formations, you have to not just think of efficiency, but you must think of effectiveness and economy. So I would suggest that we have a no action. There's no action in this process. The change is not good. The alternatives do not provide any increased efficiency or effectiveness. It may be more cheap, but the cheap is always bad. I work for the city of Columbus. When you go cheap, sometimes they are not good, okay? So I understand this. Now, when we start talking about the changes that are coming up, if this change would go through, any future licensing of a reactor would not have to have an EIS, an environmental impact statement. They would go from this generic, non-site specific, so if you would just throw something out, we've been talking about Fukushima today, but you know, Davis-Besse, all the other site-specific concerns would not be brought into to be impacting or influencing the decision for future licensing, which we're talking about future 80 years of operation of already several decade-old facilities that we're talking about. In conclusion, we need to always be concerned about the stakeholders. Stakeholders, not only those that are active, that's showing up to these meetings, or those that are getting paid to be here. Many of us were not. We have to be understanding that stakeholders are those that will be with us now, and those that are those in the major future. So any policy, we must always be thinking about the short, the long, and then, I'm sorry to say, the indefinite. Because we do not have the technological whereabouts to look beyond 2 years when we can't even get a healthcare.gov working, okay? So I'm glad the NRC is starting to think about confidence as being part of this process and help build the confidence. Confidence building is very important. So thank you, and
Thank
let's
you.
go no action on this one.
Thank you very much. Carol Izont. And then we're going to go to Carrie Berlincourt, and this is Carol.
I'm Carol Izant. I live in Southfield, Michigan, within the 50-mile evacuation zone from the Fermi 2 nuclear reactor complex near Monroe. I co-chair the recently formed Alliance to Halt Fermi 3. You've heard from my other co-chair, Keith Gunter. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you today. However, my thoughts are not unique. Rather, I'm here to stand together with my comrades and deliver the message to the NRC that we have no confidence in your draft generic environmental impact statement. In fact, what we are gathered here together today is to sort of hold up yet another ruse that's been designed to deflect the real issue at hand. The real issue is, of course, why are we continuing to make this stuff? The ultimate answer to the dilemma of radioactive waste is not to make any more of it. This has been repeated many times this evening. So let's stop digging ourselves in deeper and deeper into a hole that we can't possibly dig ourselves out of. I don't have to tell you that in June of 2012, the federal courts handed down a ruling that required you to take the time to reconsider your efforts to continue to license and relicense nukes based on the fact that there's been a concern that for all these years there has not been, nor will there ever probably be, a repository suitable for the disposal of high-level radioactive waste. And if it hasn't become perfectly clear from the recent still unfolding disaster at Fukushima that nuclear power is simply too deadly, too dangerous, not to mention unneeded, uncompetitive, and obsolete, to be considered as a likely component of the 21st century energy policy. Even if the decision was to phase out all existing nuclear reactors in the United States today, we've still set ourselves up into eternity to require a technical and military elite whose job it will be to guard the some 70,000 plus ton mountain of high-level radioactive waste. Isn't that enough of a job for the NRC to oversee into the future? That said, with what's already sitting precariously on site in spent fuel pools, and I'd like to say to the legal counsel, I think you had it right the first time, it was the spent nuclear fools. Let's get it moved at least into a hardened on-site storage as soon as possible. They say truth is stranger than fiction, and when it comes to the matter of radioactive waste, I couldn't agree more. Let's face it, we built the mansion, we forgot to put in the toilet. You know what, if I was a builder and it got out there that I was building McMansions without a toilet, my reputation would go down the toilet.
All right.